Hey, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. So I know I promised this video yesterday, but I had trouble loading it. So this is my second attempt on a brief summation of the Second Amendment, and I'm shooting it from my couch because Chavo is taking a nap, and you can't disturb the boss. So just a little bit of a disclosure. I'm not going to go into my views on the Second Amendment. I'm going to try to keep this very fair and neutral. There are tons of videos online that Vox did, the Retro Report, all different organizations about the pros and cons on guns. Now, Second Amendment to the Constitution, again, keeping in mind that the Constitution was a reactionary document from what the English was doing to their colonial possessions, i.e., the 13 colonies, and they would strip guns away from people. The thing is, if you think of the time, there's two things you got to think about. So the first is um, you needed weapons to protect yourself. It was a very frontier lifestyle. There were also for some people, hunting was a way of life. So if you didn't have a gun, you didn't have food. Now, the thing about the guns at the time, a professional soldier can get 3 shots off a minute. We now have guns that really, can rip through a clip of 30, 40 in a few seconds. So the way the Second Amendment reads is the right to bear arms shall not be infringed upon for a well-regulated militia. Now, a lot of things have changed since then. Our population has grown from about 3 million spread out across 13 colonies, not including slaves and Native Americans, to roughly, I think we're at something like 328 million across the entire continent, for all 50 states. You know what I'm saying? Now, where some of the issues are, and I won't put my 2 cents into this, but what some of the pros and cons are. There are people who believe that you need to have guns in order to protect yourself, to make the state think twice about trying to put further restrictions on people. That's one view. There are other people that believe I should have a right to a firearm to protect my household, to protect my family. Depending on where you are in the country, the police may be a 40-minute ride away, for your location. There are people who point out that not everybody should have a gun. What are the things that, should there be a mental background check? Should there be a criminal background check? I'm personally for that, but if you're looking at the lettering of the law, it basically says everybody has a right to a gun. The Second Amendment is probably the most contested amendment out there. I mean, it could literally make or break a politician. Different states have different laws. What types of weapons people can have, whether you can have a concealed carry. I think there's a movement right now where they want to push where any American can carry a gun. Guns in schools, that's been brought up a few times. Personally, I'm a teacher. I didn't sign up to work at the OK Corral. It is just one of those fundamental arguments. Now, if we use our Canadian counterparts, how many guns do they have? How much gun violence do they have? Gun violence in this country is kind of off the charts in certain respects as compared to, let's say, our European counterparts. There are some countries in Europe, nobody gets a gun. There are some countries that, I believe it's Sweden, you have to do mandatory military training. You also have to, you can't keep the gun in your house. It's got to be stored at a facility. Japan, you get choice of two guns: one shotgun, other one BB gun, and then you have to basically explain why you need these things. Now, the other argument that we get into is the only thing that stops a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. I call bullshit on that, because if you think back to the Parkland shooting, the police officer or the SRO who was stationed at that school basically said, fuck it, I ain't going in there. A lot of pros and cons. Like I said, it's a very deeply, it's a troubling thing to get into because there's a lot of implications. If we take guns away, we've seen what happens in the Philippines. The Philippines when I think it was Marcos, Amelia Marcos, I'm pretty sure that was. That's one of the things that Jesse Ventura points out. You know, when they stripped the citizens of the guns, then the country, the Philippines, started more of a military state where the their government had more power over the people. There are other Australia. They had one mass shooting a few years ago. They basically rewrote their entire gun policies. You know, and they were worried about, you know, even the most hardcore pro gun people in Australia. Your first reaction to a change is always an emotional one. Then your second reaction is a more intellectual one. They basically changed things around. You know, the shotguns were okay, handguns were okay, but I think it was like assault rifles. I'm not exactly sure. I just remember the Daily Show doing this thing where they went there and discussed, and they said, "Yeah, we changed our policies." Here in America, again, different states, different rules. Everybody's got a different stance. I grew up around guns. I personally don't own one, but I do have nunchucks. So if you come to my house, you're catching an ass kicking like Michelangelo from the Ninja Turtles. Um, Different, you know, it's kind of a personal belief. I could see both sides of the argument, but like I said, it is one of the most highly contested or questioned amendments you could find, and the biggest advocacy group, the National Rifle Association. Now, they've come under, no pun intended, they've come under fire as of late, and they are actually, I think they filed like Chapter 7 or Chapter 11. They got a big misappropriation of funds things going on. But what I admire about the National Rifle Association is that a friend of mine is an NRA member, and they send at least 2 or 3 letters a month about what they're doing to protect your gun rights. And I always was very interested, what if, maybe not guns, but if for healthcare, for education, for all the good stuff, what if there was some organization that promoted your other rights, you know, your right to an education, healthcare, things like that, if they promoted it just as much as the protection of guns. But that's a story for another day. Tune in next time. I'll have the Third Amendment, which a lot of people don't know about, nor do they really care about. So it won't be that exciting, or maybe it will. Who knows? Stay tuned. Catch you later.